Assalamu alaikum everyone. Today we have another story for you, and today's story is about a deer. The deer lived in the woods, and every autumn it would start preparing for winter, because sometimes in winter there were huge blizzards and snowstorms, and the deer would make a winter store of food for all the animals and shelter for all the animals, so that if there was a blizzard they would all be safe. But this year the deer was feeling quite tired, and it felt that it was getting old now and it needed some help. So it went off one morning to try and find some animals who would help her with the winter store this year. She trotted through the woodlands and she heard scampering up ahead. There was her friend the squirrel. Assalamu alaikum, squirrel. Would you be able to help me collect some mushrooms for the winter store? I'm sorry, said the squirrel. I'm too busy collecting acorns before winter comes. I cannot help you. The deer smiled and said, that's okay. And she carried on and she worked tirelessly, very hard, looking for the best mushrooms. She plucked them carefully and took them back to a huge cave that she would store all her winter things in. She searched and collected only the very best mushrooms and placed them in the cave. She was a little bit tired, but she still had lots to do, so she set off. Up ahead, she heard chirping, cheep, 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 cheep. It was her friend the robin. Assalamu alaikum, Robin. Please could you help me collect some berries? And the robin said, I'm sorry, I'm collecting the last of the worms for myself. I cannot help you. And the deer said, never mind, Bismillah, and it carried on. And the deer was a bit worried about this part because the berries grew on thorny bushes, and every time she tried to pluck them, she would get a little bit hurt by the thorns. But she said Bismillah and she carried on, and she picked the juiciest, ripest berries and took them back to the winter store. Yeah, to the food store. And she was careful not to squash them, and she put them inside safely. It was nearly night time now, and she was very tired, but she had to make this shelter stronger because it was getting a bit weak over the years. So she set off, and she bumped into a hedgehog building her shelter. She was collecting little twigs. The deer was very happy to see the hedgehog building a shelter because now they could make one together. She went to the hedgehog and she said, Hedgehog, would you like to build our winter shelter together too? What do you think the hedgehog said?
Yeah.
Actually, the hedgehog said, no, I'm too busy. I need to collect moss and make my winter home very comfortable. I cannot help you. So the deer said, that's okay. She turned around, her legs very tired now. She said Bismillah and she began pulling the strongest branches from the trees to strengthen her cave. And she collected and she pulled and pulled and pulled until she had a very strong structure around her cave. And then she saw that the mouth of the cave was open. She had to find something to cover it with. So she found a large piece of fallen wood and she dragged it with all her might and pushed it to the front of the cave to keep the winter store and shelter safe. Now that night there was a huge snowstorm. All the trees were falling. Heavy snow was falling from the sky and it was very, very cold. Soon the entire forest floor was covered with heaps and heaps of snow. All the animals were scared and they made lots of dua. Please Allah protect us. And soon the snow stopped. In the morning, all the forest animals came to see what had happened to their home, and they were shocked to see very deep snow had covered the entire forest floor. The hedgehog could no longer find the home that it built. The squirrel could no longer find all the acorns that it had hidden, and the robin no longer could find any worms or insects in the ground. They were so upset and really worried about what they were going to do. The deer called them and said, come to the winter store. There's plenty of food and a warm shelter here for you. The animals felt very ashamed. "How can we come to the winter store and eat from the food that you collected all by yourself? We didn't help you." And the deer smiled and said, "But Allah loves those who help, and I would love to help you." And the animals were so grateful to the kind deer. She moved the log away and she gave the squirrel mushrooms to eat, and she gave berries to the robin, and the hedgehog went inside and slept. From that day on, every single year, all the forest animals worked together to create a winter store.